So this is a story that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but the truth of the matter is the content and the videos I do on this channel, I tend to be more geared towards the light-hearted aspect. But every now and again when I'm researching for a video, I come across these stories, and if I find something big or something that really needs to be spoke about, I'll usually recommend it to other YouTubers throughout their kind of community page, or I'll leave a comment on their video just saying, hey, I would really love your opinion on this. I think this is something that needs to be spoke about. Because certain subjects do deserve a bigger platform, something that I don't necessarily have. And I know this is a long intro and people hate these long intros, but just stick by me, because what I'm getting at is this is a story I found ages ago and I put it out there and no one's really picking it up. No one really wants to talk about it. So I figured I'll just have to do it myself, because it doesn't just show the downfall of a person, but it speaks volumes about our society, and it's still something that's never been sorted out. Like, people are not talking about it. It's been buried. The best thing I can do is just talk about it, and who knows, some other YouTuber who does have that big platform or that big audience may see this and do a video themselves. I encourage you to do so, because it does need to be spoke about. So if you are watching this and you have a big audience, please do take what I'm saying and make your own video on it. Honestly, you don't even need to credit me for it. I just feel like this story needs to be spoke about, and it is the story of Edward Furlong. So Edward Furlong's career famously started with his casting in the blockbuster movie, which was Terminator 2, Judgement Day. He was the big star. Acting alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger was Edward Furlong, the main character of this movie. Now, he actually got this role in the dream way, the way everyone dreams of getting a role. The thing that people say, it never happens, it's just a dream, is how he got it. So he was scouted on the streets by casting director Mally Finn when he was 13 years old. Furlong had no interest in acting before this, but he was encouraged to audition by Finn. I think he was like outside a shop or something. This director just said, you know what, he's got the look we are looking for, went over to him, encouraged him to do it, which is the dream, right? Everyone dreams of that happening, which means Terminator 2 was his debut role. That blockbuster film, that massive film, was his debut. Terminator 2 was released in 1991. After that, he did continue to act. Obviously, he was a star. Everyone wanted a piece of him. Notable roles include starring opposite Edward Norton in the drama American History X, which was 1998, and also a film that stuck with me through life. If anyone watched it, they had this like curb stomping moment in it, it was crazy. He was also in Pet Sematary 2, which was 1992, American Heart, which was 1992, and Detroit Rock City, which was 1999. So he went from a nobody to being scouted for that year's biggest movie and now a cult classic, and creating this career for himself. It was the dream. But his life during this point and prior wasn't exactly an easy ride. He never knew his father. His mother eventually lost control of him, which resulted in his aunt and uncle suing for custody and raising him until his early teens. Perhaps more shockingly is the fact that he sued for his own emancipation and won it. And we're going to speak more about that. We are going to go into that. But what I really want to get across is that his life was not perfect. But before being scouted, he had a rocky life. He didn't have any role models, and he didn't have that perfect family unit. So when he was casted for this major movie when he was 13, and his life suddenly was put on a pedestal, and he had all this money, and it was the dream life, he had no one to really teach him about what to do with that, how to deal with the fame, and how to deal with his money, and what to do with his money. And here's where the story thickens. Here's where we speak about his downfall, and the real reason I think they should be spoke about so much more. You see, Edward was in a relationship with a 29-year-old woman. She was his on-set tutor during the filming of Terminator 2 Judgement Day, right? Because when you're 13 and you're cast in a major movie, you've still got to have education. So what they normally do is they get on-set tutor, someone to come in. So you don't have to go to school, you don't have to leave the set and go to school, you can have school come to you. So you get a tutor to come and teach you. In this case, it was a 29-year-old woman. a 29-year-old woman who would end up seducing Edward. At the time of their relationship, he was 15 years old. That's when it was public, by the way. Chances are they was together way before that, probably when he was 13 and she was a fully grown adult woman. But he was 15, she was 29. She eventually became his manager. 1995, she was arrested by the LAPD following a domestic dispute with Furlong. Not about the relationship. She wasn't arrested for being his tutor and then pretty much seducing him. No. She was arrested for a domestic dispute with him. So she was abusing him. According to the police report, she became combative and began yelling profanities. She started kicking and grabbing at the police officers when they arrived on the scene. She started abusing them. She started fighting them. And during this scuffling, she suffered from a broken finger. After which, she filed a false arrest lawsuit against the LAPD, saying that they tried to arrest her under false pretenses and broke her finger. 3 years later, the city offered her a settlement of 150 grand. So she won that settlement. She was called out for abusing this kid who she was in a relationship with. She started abusing the police officers and then she won the case and got a settlement of 150,000 grand. Edward would eventually get engaged to and split from this woman, his manager, both personally and professionally. In 1999, she then sued him. She sued him for money owed to her for acting as his manager. She also claimed he was physically abusive. Throughout this time, Edward is said to have taken hard drugs. We're talking, I don't think I can say them on YouTube, but the H, the C's, as well as that, he was also in the depths of serious alcoholism. And then in October of the year 2000, he entered rehab for the first time. Because of his addictions, that prevented him from being recast as John Connor in the 2002 follow-up to Terminator 2 Judgment Day, with the role instead going to an actor called Nick. Throughout the 2000s, he was arrested several times for domestic abuse, addiction, and various driving offences. He's admitted publicly in court that he's completely broke. Despite all this money that he had from his major acting roles, he's completely broke. And then in 2009, he would have a restraining order filed against him during a divorce with the actress Rachel Bella, stemming from an alleged drug-fueled altercation involving a punch when he was basically high all the time and abusing her. He also has a kid with this woman, Rachel, and in 2010, he received a 3-year probation for violating a protective order. So I think basically he broke the restraining order and got a 3-year probation. In October and November of 2012, he was arrested twice for felony violence and assault with his then girlfriend, a new girlfriend called Monica Keener. And then he was arrested again for a misdemeanor battery in January of 2013, which was from an incident the previous year. In 2013, he was sentenced to 180 days in jail for another probation violation. So he actually got jail time this time, 180 days. In May of 2013, he was arrested once again for avoidance of the prison sentence. So he never turned up and he got arrested again. He was basically on the run for a short time. He was also ordered to go to rehab for 90 days for his addiction and 1 year of domestic violence counselling. So just to paint the picture for you so far, bad upbringing, scouted, the dream, acting, the big role, big moment for him. 13 years old, it's all going up. He's finally made it through. After which, complete downfall. Many of arrests, many of addictions, jail time, domestic violence, all of it. You look at that on paper, he's a bad guy. He's a horrible person. He treats women badly, he treats himself badly, and he doesn't respect the law, he doesn't respect the country in which he resides, which is America. But he has turned his life around. As of July 2022, Edward has been sober for about 4 years, so congratulations to him. That's not an easy feat, especially with the past that he has. Been sober for 4 years. Give him credit where credit is due. After this, he then had reconstructive dental surgery due to the rotting of his teeth. He now appears to be getting his life in order. Look, he went from this to this. I think getting the new teeth gave him a sense of confidence. It like signified a good start for him. This is my life now, I'm getting back on track. However, the big issue here, and the thing that I really want to shed a light on, and the reason I think this story deserves more attention, is not just because, oh, a child actor became super rich and then went downhill and became the stereotype of every child actor. The real story is this tutor of his that he got into a relationship with. This woman who was much older than him, who was meant to be his tutor, who was meant to teach him, who eventually became his manager, who sued the police for 150 grand, who sued him, and it's something that we don't hear about. That woman, whose name I'm yet to mention, is Jacqueline Domac. She was 28 years old when he was 14. That's when they first met and possibly started dating. She was supposed to be his tutor, and everybody knew they was in a relationship. This wasn't a big cover-up. Everybody knew it. Imagine if this was the other way around. Imagine if a 28-year-old male tutor was hired to teach a 14-year-old female actor. People found out they were in a relationship. All hell would break loose. She manipulated him into leaving his family and becoming his manager. Imagine if this was like Millie Bobby Brown when she was filming Stranger Things and her male tutor seduced her, ended up being in a relationship with her. What would the newspapers say about that? What would people say who knew that story? It would be an absolute, it would be headlines everywhere. But we don't hear about it. And why? Because there's a significant difference in the story. And that difference is that Edward was a young boy and that Jacqueline was a woman. She had stopped him seeing people his own age. This relationship, like I said, was no secret. Everyone knew. Edward said that himself. He said the problem was that nobody told him she was bad for him. He was young, easily manipulated, and everyone just acted like, oh yeah, you know, you've scored. You're doing a good thing. You've got yourself an older lady. Don't be mad about that. That's the dream, right? You're in the biggest film of the year and you've scored yourself an older lady. Well done you. You have no reason to be mad. You have no reason to be upset. This is what you want to happen. It's quite honestly disgusting. The reason he actually filed for emancipation against his family was because she encouraged him to do so. So the only role models he had, the only older role models, was the people on set for these films and his family. She manipulated him into getting away from his family. Started telling him that his family's going to start taking his money, start using him for his career. So pulled him away from the family, and everyone on set just saw this as a good thing. He didn't have anyone his own age to tell him what was going on because she was older. She wanted to spend all her time with him, so she pulled him away from there. She manipulated him into thinking she knows what's best and she's the only person that really cares for him, so became his manager, which then allowed her to be able to sue him years later for a load of money. The LAPD didn't even want to get involved even if this was brought up, because why? Because she had already successfully sued them for an assault which she started. And here's the kicker, right? Here is the kicker. Get this. After the relationship, after she stopped managing Edward and they broke up, she went on to teach at a high school. Do you know what she taught in high school? Sex education. Of all the things, of all the jobs and all the subjects, that is what she was hired to do. Knowing all of this, she was hired, history, teaching a young boy and seducing him and getting into a relationship with him, and then was hired in a school to teach sex ed to kids. What does she know about that subject? That is not something that should be allowed to be done. If she was a man, that would never be allowed. And the funny thing is, throughout this school, student reporters got word that she had this relationship with Edward, and they tried to publish an article about it in the student newspaper, right? So the school had a little student newspaper, they got word of this, they tried to publish an article, but were banned from doing so by the principal and Jacqueline's lawyer. So the principal knew exactly what she had done in the past because the students were going to publish this article and they banned them from doing so. But the students didn't give up that easy. They also thought this was a big story. They ended up publishing it in the LA Times. Yet still, people defended her and said she was a good person. And why did people defend her? Because she pushed for anti-junk food in the school. She basically said we should ban all the vending machines and replace them with like healthy snacks, apples and bananas, get rid of the crisp and the fizzy pop, bring in the fruit. So people praised her as being a good person. Oh yeah, she can teach sex ed even after her entire history. She shouldn't be fired because she is petitioning for anti-junk food in school. So she's clearly a good person. So where is she now? Well, she gets to live a happy life, living off his money. He has to take on all the drama of growing up in a situation where everyone was acting like it was okay. I mean, no wonder he got addicted to the things he was addicted to. No wonder his story went the way it did. Him taking to alcohol and drugs and all these things, he was shown that way by an older woman. He was told that that was okay. No one ever said that's not okay for him. So no wonder his life went the way it did. And the thing is, he is now flat broke. He's got no money. People speak about him as like a tragedy, as a stereotype. Here's what not to do. Massive actor. Massive downfall. Taken to all these bad things. He's a bad person. He's an abuser. He's a criminal. He's not a good person. He's got no money. All while the woman that made him do all these things and that traumatized him into living this life is incredibly wealthy and gets no bad press from what she did. And that is why I feel like this story really needs a bigger audience. At the very least, she deserves a bit of bad press. And if no one else is going to give it her, well, I'm here to do so. Even if this video only gets 2 views, that is 2 more people who now know the story and who now know she's a bad person. And I'm okay with that. I've done what I can do. But do let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. And if you do like this video and you think it deserves a bigger platform, like and comment on the video, because all that stuff, as we know, the algorithm loves, and then it's just going to promote it to more people and more people. And the only way this story is going to get more exposure, really, is if we group together. And one thing you can do, if you're a YouTuber, make a video on it yourself. If you're a blogger, write an article. If you're none of those things, the least you can do is just give this video a little like or a little comment, just to help bump it up. Even if it's just like a smiley face, even if you just write, I'm just doing this for the algorithm. It all helps. Thank you very much. Until next video, goodbye.